Dr. Lucas Montero's life took an unexpected turn on a late night in Queens, New York. Driving home from Mount Sinai Hospital after an exhausting shift, Lucas spotted a small figure lying on the sidewalk. Without hesitation, he pulled over and rushed to the girl's side. Her body was battered, her breath shallow. She was barely alive. Lucas called 911 and began administering first aid, his medical training kicking in automatically. As the paramedics arrived and transported her to the hospital, Lucas couldn't shake the sense of urgency and connection he felt towards her. He rode with them, determined to save this young girl. In the emergency room, the extent of her injuries became clear. She had been violently attacked, and it was a miracle she had survived this long. Lucas led the team in performing emergency surgery, working tirelessly through the night. When the surgery was over, the girl was stable but critical. Her fragile condition tugged at Lucas's heart. Her name was Anna, and she was an orphan living in a shelter. The more Lucas learned about her past, the more he realized that her injuries were no accident. They were a brutal message. Determined to protect her, Lucas began to unravel the dark web of corruption and violence that had led to this moment. As Lucas delved deeper, he discovered a shocking truth. Anna was his biological daughter, the result of a past relationship he thought was long over. Her mother had kept the pregnancy a secret, and after her mysterious death, Anna was left to fend for herself. This revelation transformed Lucas's mission from a professional obligation into a deeply personal quest for justice and redemption. With Anna's life hanging in the balance, Lucas faced increasing danger from the powerful crime syndicate responsible for her suffering. Each step brought new risks, but Lucas was unwavering. He would protect Anna at any cost, confronting his own past mistakes and the shadows that threatened their future. Dr. Lucas Montero drove through the quiet streets of Queens, New York, after a long shift at Mount Sinai Hospital. The late hour had emptied the roads, leaving the cityscape bathed in the dim glow of streetlights. Lucas, lost in thought about the complex surgeries he had performed that day, almost missed the small figure lying on the sidewalk. The sight jolted him from his reverie. He pulled over quickly, his heart racing with a mix of concern and professional instinct. As he approached, he saw it was a young girl, unconscious and severely injured. Her clothes were torn, and bruises covered her arms and face. Lucas's medical training kicked in, and he knelt beside her, checking her vital signs. She was alive, but barely. Her pulse was weak, and her breathing was shallow. Lucas grabbed his phone and called 911, his hands moving swiftly and efficiently to administer first aid. He stabilized her neck, fearing spinal injury, and spoke soothingly to her, though she couldn't hear him. The paramedics arrived within minutes, their flashing lights casting an eerie glow on the scene. Lucas briefed them quickly, his authoritative tone ensuring they understood the urgency. They loaded the girl onto a stretcher, and Lucas insisted on riding with them to the hospital. The ambulance sped through the night, sirens wailing. Lucas monitored the girl's condition, noting every detail for the report he would soon give to the emergency room staff. Her injuries were extensive: a fractured arm, likely internal bleeding, and severe head trauma. Arriving at Mount Sinai, Lucas took charge, guiding the girl's stretcher into the ER. The medical team sprang into action, their movements synchronized and purposeful. Lucas briefed them, his calm demeanor belying the storm of emotions within him. "We need a CT scan immediately," he ordered, "and prep for surgery." As they wheeled the girl to the imaging department, Lucas caught a glimpse of himself in a reflective surface, exhausted but determined. He couldn't shake the feeling that this girl's fate was now intertwined with his. In the operating room, Lucas scrubbed in, his mind focused on the task ahead. The scans confirmed his fears. A subdural hematoma required immediate intervention. Time was of the essence. "Scalpel," he demanded, his voice steady. The team worked in concert, every movement precise and deliberate. Lucas's hands moved with practiced skill, relieving the pressure on the girl's brain. The hours stretched on, but finally, the critical part of the surgery was over. He repaired the fractured arm and stabilized her other injuries. The surgery was a success, but the girl remained in critical condition. Lucas knew the next 24 hours would be crucial. He stepped out of the OR, stripping off his gloves and mask, feeling the weight of the night's events settle on his shoulders. Lucas sat in the hospital lounge, staring into his coffee cup. The adrenaline had worn off, leaving him weary but restless. He couldn't shake the image of the girl lying on the street, nor the inexplicable connection he felt to her. He took a deep breath, thinking about his life, his failed marriage, the long hours at the hospital, and the sacrifices he had made. Despite his successes, something was missing. This girl, this child he had saved, had awakened something within him. Lucas decided to visit her regularly. He wanted to ensure she had the best care and support during her recovery. It wasn't just a professional duty, it felt personal. The next morning, Lucas returned to the hospital. The girl was in the pediatric intensive care unit, surrounded by beeping monitors. He entered the room quietly, observing her pale, fragile form. A woman in her 30s with short blonde hair and a professional demeanor was already there, speaking softly to a nurse. She introduced herself as Beatriz, the social worker assigned to the girl's case. "Dr. Montero, I understand you performed the surgery," she said, extending her hand. "Yes," Lucas replied, shaking her hand. "Do we know her name?" "Anna," Beatriz said, glancing at the girl. "She's an orphan, living in a shelter. We're trying to find out more about her background." Lucas nodded, feeling a surge of protectiveness. "I'll be checking on her regularly. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to help." Beatriz smiled appreciatively. "Thank you, Dr. Montero. I'll keep you updated." Over the next few days, Lucas and Beatriz worked closely together. Anna's condition slowly improved, but the nature of her injuries troubled Lucas. They were too severe, too deliberate, to be accidental. One afternoon, as they reviewed Anna's medical records, Lucas turned to Beatriz. "These injuries, they don't look accidental. Someone did this to her." Beatriz's expression hardened. "I've had the same thought. I've seen too many cases like this. We need to find out who's responsible." Lucas's mind raced. "I have a friend in the police department. His name is Ricardo. Maybe he can help us." "Good idea," Beatriz agreed. "The sooner we start the investigation, the better." That evening, Lucas met Ricardo at the NYPD 7th Precinct. Ricardo, a tall, burly man with a serious demeanor, listened intently as Lucas explained the situation. "Ricardo, this girl Anna, she's in serious trouble. We need to find out who did this to her," Lucas said urgently. Ricardo nodded. "I'll look into it, Lucas. But you know these things can get complicated, especially if there's more to it than meets the eye." "I understand," Lucas replied. "Just do what you can. She needs our help." Ricardo promised to start gathering information immediately. As Lucas left the precinct, he felt a mix of hope and apprehension. The wheels were in motion, but he knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges. The following day, Lucas visited Anna in the ICU. To his surprise, she was awake, her big brown eyes scanning the room with a mix of fear and curiosity. Lucas approached her bed slowly, not wanting to startle her. "Hello, Anna," he said gently.
I'm Dr. Monteiro.
"I'm the one who helped you when you were hurt." Anna's eyes focused on him, and she gave a slight nod. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Thank you." Lucas's heart ached for her. "You're very brave, Anna. We're going to make sure you're safe and that you get better, okay?" Anna nodded again, her eyes reflecting a mixture of trust and vulnerability. Lucas knew that his connection to her was deepening, and he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Later that day, Lucas and Beatriz met in the hospital cafeteria. Beatriz looked concerned as she stirred her coffee. "Lucas, I need to talk to you about something," she began. "I've noticed you're getting very attached to Anna. I understand why, but you need to be careful. Emotional involvement can complicate things, especially in cases like this." Lucas sighed. "I know, Beatriz, but I can't help it. She needs someone to care for her, to protect her." Beatriz nodded. "I understand. Just remember to keep a professional distance. We need to focus on getting her the help she needs and finding out who did this to her." Lucas agreed, but deep down, he knew that his feelings for Anna were already beyond professional concern. He was determined to protect her, no matter the cost. That evening, as Lucas was settling in at his apartment, his phone rang. It was Ricardo. "Lucas, I've got something," Ricardo said. It's not much, but it's a start. I found a lead on Anna's past. Her mother had connections to a powerful crime syndicate. It looks like she was trying to get out, but something went wrong. Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. So Anna's injuries weren't random? Exactly, Ricardo replied. This goes deeper than we thought. Be careful, Lucas. This syndicate doesn't play around. Thanks, Ricardo. Keep me posted on anything you find, Lucas said, his mind racing with the implications. As he hung up, Lucas realized that his commitment to protecting Anna had just become far more dangerous. He was now entangled in a web of corruption and violence that threatened both their lives. But he was resolute. He would uncover the truth and keep Anna safe, no matter what it took. Lucas sat at his dining table, surrounded by stacks of medical journals and notes. The previous night's revelation from Ricardo haunted him. A powerful crime syndicate was involved in Anna's past, and the danger was far greater than he had anticipated. As he sipped his coffee, a knock on the door startled him. It was Ricardo, looking grave. Lucas, we need to talk, Ricardo said, stepping into the apartment. I did some digging. Anna's mother, Maria, was involved with a crime syndicate. She was trying to get out, but something went wrong. Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. So Anna's injuries were a message? Exactly. This syndicate is ruthless. They won't hesitate to harm anyone who crosses them, Ricardo replied, his voice low and serious. We need to be careful. You and Anna are both at risk. The gravity of the situation settled over Lucas like a heavy fog. What do we do next? We need more information about Anna's past and her mother's connections, Ricardo said. There's a shelter where Anna lived. Maybe they can give us some answers. Determined to protect Anna, Lucas agreed. They made plans to visit the Hope Shelter the following day. The next morning, Lucas and Ricardo arrived at the Hope Shelter, a worn-down building in a rough part of the city. The director, a stern woman named Mrs. Thompson, greeted them with a wary eye. We're here to ask about Anna, Lucas explained. She was brought here after her mother's death. Mrs. Thompson's expression tightened. Yes, I remember Anna. Poor child. Her mother's death was tragic, but we don't have much information beyond that. Anna's records are confidential. Lucas persisted. We need to know more about what happened to her. It's crucial for her safety. After a tense silence, Mrs. Thompson relented. I'll show you what we have, but you didn't hear this from me. She led them to a small office cluttered with files. As they sifted through the documents, Lucas found a report detailing Maria's attempts to leave the syndicate and the threats she faced. It was clear that Maria's death was no accident. This confirms it, Ricardo said grimly. Maria was trying to escape, and they silenced her. Lucas clenched his fists. We have to protect Anna and bring these people to justice. Their search was interrupted by Beatrice, who had arrived to check on Anna's case. Seeing Lucas and Ricardo, she joined them in the office. What have you found? Beatrice asked, concern etched on her face. Lucas briefed her on their findings. Anna's mother was trying to leave a crime syndicate. She was killed, and now they're targeting Anna. Beatrice's eyes widened in shock. This is serious. We need to get Anna somewhere safe. They decided to confront Mrs. Thompson again, but this time she was evasive. I've told you all I know, she insisted. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. Suspicious, Lucas and Beatrice exchanged a glance. They thanked Mrs. Thompson and left the shelter, determined to dig deeper. Back at the hospital, Lucas visited Anna. She was sitting up in bed, looking much better but still fragile. He sat beside her and gently took her hand. Anna, do you remember anything about what happened to your mother? Lucas asked softly. Anna's eyes filled with tears. I remember she was scared. She told me we had to leave, but then she was gone. Lucas's heart ached for the little girl. It's okay, Anna. We're going to keep you safe. I promise. Anna nodded, trusting Lucas completely. Her resilience amazed him, and he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He would stop at nothing to protect her. That evening, Lucas met with Ricardo at his office. Ricardo had uncovered more information linking Maria to the syndicate, but it was clear that the investigation was attracting attention. We're being watched, Ricardo warned. We need to be careful. As if on cue, Lucas's phone rang. The voice on the other end was cold and threatening. "Stop asking questions, Dr. Montero. You don't know who you're dealing with." Lucas's blood ran cold. "Who is this?" The line went dead. Lucas looked at Ricardo, his expression determined. "They're trying to scare us off." Ricardo nodded. "We can't back down. We need to tighten security around Anna." They arranged for increased security at the hospital, but the tension was palpable. Lucas knew that the danger was real and immediate. The next day, Beatriz invited Lucas to her apartment to go through more files. She had discovered hidden documents about Maria and the syndicate. As they pieced together the information, a clearer picture emerged of the syndicate's reach and influence. "This goes all the way to the top," Beatriz said, shaking her head. "They have connections in high places. It won't be easy to bring them down." Lucas sighed. "But we have to try. For Anna." Beatriz agreed, and they continued their research late into the night. The more they uncovered, the more dangerous their mission became. But Lucas was resolute. He wouldn't let anything happen to Anna. As Lucas and Beatriz delved deeper, they realized that the syndicate's influence extended far beyond what they had initially thought. They began to understand the immense challenge they faced in bringing justice for Anna and her mother. One evening, as Lucas sat in his apartment, he received another call from Ricardo. This time, Ricardo's tone was urgent. "Lucas, I found something big. Meet me at my office." Lucas hurried to the NYPD precinct, where Ricardo was waiting with a folder of documents. These records show the syndicate's operations and the people involved. "This could be the breakthrough we need." Lucas examined the documents, feeling a mix of hope and apprehension. "This is it. We can use this to bring them down." But their excitement was short-lived. As they left the precinct, Lucas's phone rang again. The same cold voice from before issued a chilling warning. "You're making a big mistake, Dr. Montero. Walk away, or you'll regret it." Lucas's determination only grew stronger. "I'm not backing down." The next morning, Lucas, Beatriz, and Ricardo met at Lucas's apartment to plan their next steps. They knew that going public with their findings would put immense pressure on the syndicate, but it would also increase the danger to themselves and Anna. "We need to expose this," Ricardo said, "but we have to be smart about it." Beatriz suggested contacting a journalist she knew, someone who could help them get the story out. "The more attention we bring to this, the harder it will be for them to silence us." Lucas agreed, and they arranged a meeting with the journalist, hoping that media exposure would provide the leverage they needed. As they prepared for the meeting, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling of impending danger. He knew they were walking a fine line, but he was driven by the need to protect Anna and bring justice to those who had wronged her. When they met the journalist, she listened intently to their story, her eyes widening with each revelation. "This is huge," she said. "I'll start investigating right away. But you need to be careful. These people are dangerous." With the journalist on board, Lucas felt a glimmer of hope. They had allies and a plan. But the road ahead was fraught with peril, and they couldn't afford any mistakes. That night, Lucas sat by Anna's bedside, watching her sleep. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. He vowed to himself that he would do everything in his power to keep her safe. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. The journalist began digging into the syndicate's operations, uncovering more evidence of their crimes. Ricardo worked tirelessly to gather additional information, while Beatriz coordinated with other social workers to ensure Anna's safety. Despite the mounting pressure, Lucas found solace in his growing bond with Anna. She trusted him implicitly, and her presence gave him strength. They spent hours talking, playing games, and reading stories. Each day, Lucas felt more like a father to her. One evening, as they sat together in her hospital room, Anna looked up at Lucas with wide eyes. "Dr. Montero, do you think my mommy is watching over me?" Lucas's heart ached. "I believe she is, Anna, and she would be so proud of you." Anna smiled, a hint of sadness in her eyes.
I miss her.
"I know," Lucas said softly, "but you're not alone. We're going to make sure you're safe, and we'll get justice for your mommy." As the investigation progressed, the threats against them escalated. Lucas received another chilling phone call, this time with a clear message. "We know where you live. Stop now, or else." Fear gnawed at Lucas, but he refused to be intimidated. He and Ricardo increased security measures, ensuring Anna was never left unprotected. They also took steps to protect themselves, knowing the syndicate wouldn't hesitate to make good on their threats. One afternoon, Beatrice made a breakthrough. She discovered a series of hidden documents in her files that detailed the syndicate's operations and key members. The information was damning, providing concrete evidence of their crimes. "This is it," Beatrice said, handing the documents to Lucas and Ricardo. "We have what we need to take them down." Lucas felt a surge of determination. "We need to go public with this. It's the only way to ensure Anna's safety and bring these people to justice." They contacted the journalist, who agreed to publish the story. The media exposure would put immense pressure on the syndicate and force the authorities to act. As the story broke, public outrage grew. The revelations were shocking, and the demand for justice was loud and clear. The syndicate's power was beginning to crack, but Lucas knew they weren't out of danger yet. With the public's attention on their side, Lucas, Beatrice, and Ricardo prepared for the next phase of their plan. They needed to gather more evidence and ensure the syndicate's leaders were brought to justice. Late one night, Lucas received a call from Ricardo. "I found a key piece of evidence. We need to move quickly." This was the break they needed. As they reviewed the evidence, Lucas felt a sense of urgency. They were close, but the danger was greater than ever. They needed to be careful and precise in their actions. The next day, they gathered at Lucas's apartment to finalize their plan. They would confront the syndicate's leaders and present the evidence, forcing them to face justice. "We need to be ready for anything," Ricardo warned. "These people won't go down without a fight." Lucas nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. He looked at Beatrice and Ricardo, grateful for their unwavering support. Together, they had come this far, and together they would see it through. As they prepared for the confrontation, Lucas couldn't help but think of Anna. She was the reason he was fighting, the reason he couldn't give up. Her safety and future depended on their success. With a final deep breath, Lucas steeled himself for the battle ahead. They were on the brink of a dangerous showdown, but he was ready. For Anna, he would face any threat, overcome any obstacle, and fight with everything he had. "Meet me at the hospital parking lot as soon as you can." Lucas dressed quickly, his mind racing with possibilities. As he drove to the hospital, he couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled over him. He found Ricardo waiting, his expression grim. "What's going on?" Lucas asked, stepping out of his car. "Last night, someone tried to break into your apartment," Ricardo said, his voice low. "It looks like the syndicate is getting desperate." Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. "Is Anna safe?" "She's fine. We had her moved to a more secure location," Ricardo assured him. "But we need to be extra careful. They're not going to stop until they get what they want." Lucas nodded, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "What's our next move?" "We need to increase security around you and Anna," Ricardo said. "And we have to keep digging for more evidence. The more we have, the better our chances of bringing them down." As they discussed their plans, Lucas noticed a familiar figure approaching. Beatrice, looking weary but determined, joined them. "I just heard about the break-in. Are you okay?" Lucas nodded.
I'm fine.
"Just worried about Anna." "We're doing everything we can to keep her safe," Beatrice said, her eyes filled with resolve. "But we need to move quickly. The journalist is ready to publish the story, but we need more concrete evidence to back it up." Ricardo nodded. "I've been working on that. We have a few leads to follow up on, but we need to be careful. The syndicate has eyes everywhere." As they strategized, a nurse approached them, her expression anxious. "Dr. Montero, there's a problem with Anna." Lucas's heart skipped a beat. "What happened?" "Her condition is deteriorating. We need you to come right away," the nurse said. Without hesitation, Lucas followed the nurse back into the hospital, Ricardo and Beatrice close behind. They found Anna in her room, pale and struggling to breathe. Lucas quickly assessed the situation and gave orders to the medical team. "Her injuries are causing complications," Lucas explained, his voice steady but filled with concern. "We need to stabilize her immediately." As the team worked to save Anna, Lucas's mind raced with thoughts of the syndicate and their ruthless tactics. He couldn't let them win. He had to protect Anna at all costs. Hours passed in a blur of medical procedures and tense moments, But finally, Anna's condition stabilized. Lucas let out a sigh of relief, his body sagging with exhaustion. But we need to stay vigilant. They won't stop until they get what they want. Ricardo nodded. We need to stay ahead of them. Let's follow up on those leads. The trio left the hospital and began their investigation. They visited various locations in New York, following the trail of clues that Ricardo had uncovered. Each lead brought them closer to the heart of the syndicate's operations, but also deeper into danger. One afternoon, as they met at a small cafe to review their findings, a woman approached their table. She was a nurse from the hospital, someone Lucas vaguely recognized. "Dr. Montero, I need to speak with you," she said, her voice urgent. Lucas frowned. "Is everything okay?" The nurse shook her head.
Recognizeana.
She used to come to the clinic with her mother. "I think I can help you." Intrigued, Lucas invited the nurse to join them. She introduced herself as Maria, and her information proved invaluable. She provided details about Anna's mother and the syndicate's operations that they hadn't been able to uncover on their own. "This is incredible," Beatrice said, her eyes wide with surprise. "This could be the breakthrough we need." Maria nodded. "I want to help." Anna and her mother were good people. With Maria's help, they pieced together more of the puzzle. The evidence was mounting, but so were the risks. As they delved deeper into the syndicate's activities, they knew they were treading on dangerous ground. One evening, as Lucas returned to his apartment, he felt a sense of unease. He had been careful, but the syndicate's reach was long. As he approached his door, he noticed it was slightly ajar. His heart pounding, Lucas entered cautiously, his eyes scanning the room for any signs of danger. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, lunging at him with a knife. Lucas reacted instinctively, grappling with the attacker. The struggle was fierce, but Lucas managed to overpower the assailant, pinning him to the ground. Lucas demanded, his voice trembling with anger. The attacker remained silent, his eyes filled with defiance. Before Lucas could press further, the sound of sirens filled the air. Ricardo and a team of officers burst into the apartment, quickly subduing the attacker. "Are you okay?" Ricardo asked, helping Lucas to his feet. Lucas nodded, his breath coming in ragged gasps.
Infine.
"But we need to find out who this guy is working for." As the police took the attacker into custody, Lucas felt a renewed sense of urgency. The syndicate was getting desperate, and they wouldn't stop until they achieved their goals. The next day, Beatrice contacted a journalist she trusted, hoping to expose the syndicate's activities to the public. They met at a discreet location, away from prying eyes. The journalist listened intently as Beatrice and Lucas laid out their evidence. "This is huge," she said, her eyes widening with each revelation. "But you need to be careful. These people won't hesitate to retaliate." "We know the risks," Lucas replied, "but we have to do this. For Anna." The journalist agreed to investigate further and publish the story. As they left the meeting, Lucas felt a glimmer of hope. They had allies and a plan, but the road ahead was fraught with peril. Back at the hospital, Anna's condition had improved slightly, but Lucas knew she was still in danger. He sat by her bedside, watching her sleep, and vowed to protect her no matter what. As the investigation progressed, the threats against them escalated. Lucas received another chilling phone call, this time with a clear message. "We know where you live. Stop now, or else." Fear gnawed at Lucas, but he refused to be intimidated. He and Ricardo increased security measures, ensuring Anna was never left unprotected. They also took steps to protect themselves, knowing the syndicate wouldn't hesitate to make good on their threats. One afternoon, Beatrice made a breakthrough. "This is it," Beatrice said, handing the documents to Lucas and Ricardo. "We have what we need to take them down." Lucas felt a surge of determination. "We need to go public with this. It's the only way to ensure Anna's safety and bring these people to justice." They contacted the journalist, who agreed to publish the story. The media exposure would put immense pressure on the syndicate and force the authorities to act. As the story broke, public outrage grew. The revelations were shocking, and the demand for justice was loud and clear. The syndicate's power was beginning to crack, but Lucas knew they weren't out of danger yet. With the public's attention on their side, Lucas, Beatrice, and Ricardo prepared for the next phase of their plan. They needed to gather more evidence and ensure the syndicate's leaders were brought to justice. Late one night, Lucas received a call from Ricardo. "I found a key piece of evidence. We need to move quickly." They met at Ricardo's office, where he showed them a document that linked a high-ranking syndicate member to a series of illegal activities. This was the break they needed. As they reviewed the evidence, Lucas felt a sense of urgency. They were close, but the danger was greater than ever. They needed to be careful and precise in their actions. The next day, they gathered at Lucas's apartment to finalize their plan. They would confront the syndicate's leaders and present the evidence, forcing them to face justice. "We need to be ready for anything," Ricardo warned. "These people won't go down without a fight." Lucas nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. He looked at Beatriz and Ricardo, grateful for their unwavering support. Together, they had come this far, and together they would see it through. As they prepared for the confrontation, Lucas couldn't help but think of Anna. She was the reason he was fighting, the reason he couldn't give up. Her safety and future depended on their success. With a final deep breath, Lucas steeled himself for the battle ahead. They were on the brink of a dangerous showdown, but he was ready. For Anna, he would face any threat, overcome any obstacle, and fight with everything he had. The next chapter in their journey was about to begin, and Lucas was determined to see it through to the end. The tension in the air was palpable as Lucas, Beatriz, and Ricardo sat in Lucas's apartment, meticulously planning their next move. They had gathered all the evidence they could, and it was time to confront the syndicate head-on. The stakes were high, but they had no choice if they wanted to ensure Anna's safety. The sun was setting as they drove to the outskirts of the city, where the syndicate leader's mansion loomed like a dark fortress. Ricardo had managed to obtain blueprints of the estate, and they spent hours analyzing every detail. They needed to know exactly what they were up against. "Are we sure about this?" Beatriz asked, her voice tinged with anxiety. "We have to be," Lucas replied, determination etched on his face. "For Anna." They parked a safe distance from the mansion and set up their surveillance equipment. As the night deepened, they watched through binoculars, noting the movement of guards and staff. It was clear that security was tight, but Ricardo was confident they could infiltrate the mansion. "Wait for the shift change," Ricardo instructed. "That's our best chance." As they waited, Lucas's mind wandered to Anna. She was safe for now, hidden away in a secure location, but the thought of what could happen if they failed filled him with dread. He couldn't let that happen. He wouldn't. Finally, the moment came. The shift change created a brief window of opportunity. Ricardo took the lead, moving stealthily toward the mansion. Lucas and Beatriz followed closely behind, their hearts pounding. They reached the perimeter and scaled the fence, careful to avoid the cameras. Ricardo had studied the security system and knew when and where to move. Inside the grounds, they ducked behind bushes and structures, inching closer to their target. At the back of the mansion, Ricardo found an unguarded entrance. He picked the lock with practiced ease, and they slipped inside. The interior was opulent, a stark contrast to the darkness of their mission. They moved quickly but cautiously, planting surveillance devices in strategic locations. As they navigated the mansion, they overheard snippets of conversations that confirmed their worst fears. The syndicate was planning something big, and they had no qualms about eliminating anyone who stood in their way. "We need to get out of here," Ricardo whispered. "We've got what we need." But as they turned to leave, a door creaked open. A guard stepped into the hallway, his eyes widening in surprise. Before he could react, Ricardo lunged forward, silencing him with a swift blow. "Hurry," Ricardo urged. "We don't have much time." They retraced their steps, but just as they reached the entrance, alarms blared through the mansion. Their cover was blown. Panic surged through Lucas, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Run!" he shouted, leading the way back to the fence. They sprinted across the grounds, dodging guards and bullets. Adrenaline fueled their escape, but the danger was real and imminent. As they reached the fence, Ricardo boosted Beatriz over, followed by Lucas. Just as Ricardo climbed up, a shot rang out, grazing his leg. Ricardo grimaced in pain, but managed to hoist himself over. They hit the ground running, disappearing into the night as sirens wailed in the distance. Their mission had been a success, but the cost was high. Back at their safe house, Ricardo's wound was treated, and they reviewed the footage from the surveillance devices. It was damning evidence, enough to bring the syndicate down, but they knew the fight wasn't over. "We need to act fast," Beatrice said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "They'll come after us with everything they've got." Lucas nodded. "We have to go public with this. It's the only way to protect Anna and ourselves." They contacted the journalist who had been working with them, arranging a press conference to expose the syndicate's activities. As the story broke, public outrage grew. The media coverage put immense pressure on law enforcement to act, but it also painted targets on their backs. The next few days were a blur of interviews, police briefings, and constant vigilance. They couldn't afford to let their guard down for a moment. Anna remained hidden, her location known only to a trusted few. One afternoon, as they prepared for another press conference, Lucas received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was cold and menacing. "You've made a big mistake, Dr. Montero. You have no idea who you're dealing with." Lucas's heart raced. "Who is this? You think you can take us down? We know where you are, and we know where the girl is." Lucas's blood ran cold. He slammed the phone down, his mind racing. They had to move Anna again, and quickly. "Ricardo, we've been compromised," Lucas said, his voice urgent. "They know where Anna is." Ricardo didn't hesitate. "We'll move her to a new location. Let's go." They gathered their things and rushed to Anna's hiding place. As they approached, Lucas's worst fears were confirmed. The safe house was under surveillance. They had walked into a trap. "Get down," Ricardo shouted, pushing Lucas and Beatrice to the ground as bullets flew past them. They crawled to cover, returning fire as best they could. The situation was dire, but Lucas refused to give up. He spotted a side entrance and signaled to Ricardo. "Cover me," Lucas shouted, making a dash for the door. Ricardo and Beatrice provided covering fire, allowing Lucas to reach the entrance. He burst inside, finding Anna huddled in a corner, terrified but unharmed. "It's okay, Anna," Lucas said, scooping her up. "We're getting out of here." They fought their way back outside, where Ricardo had managed to neutralize the immediate threat. Together, they made their escape, driving to yet another secure location. As they settled into the new safe house, Lucas held Anna close, his heart heavy with the knowledge of the danger they faced. But he was more determined than ever to protect her. In the following days, the police acted on the evidence they had gathered. Raids were conducted across the city, and key members of the syndicate were arrested. The media coverage continued to put pressure on the authorities, ensuring that justice would be served. Despite the progress, Lucas knew the fight wasn't over. The syndicate was vast, and their reach extended far beyond what they had uncovered. But they had struck a significant blow, and with Anna safe, they could begin to hope for a future free from fear. One evening, as Lucas sat with Anna in their temporary home, she looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes. "Will they come after us again?" Lucas's heart ached at the fear in her voice. "I won't let them, Anna. I promise." As the days turned into weeks, the intensity of the threat began to fade. The syndicate's power was broken, and the remaining members were in hiding or behind bars. The media continued to follow the story, keeping the public's attention on the need for justice and reform. Lucas, Beatrice, and Ricardo worked tirelessly to ensure the safety of other children who had been affected by the syndicate's activities. They started a foundation to provide support and protection for vulnerable children, inspired by their experience with Anna. Through it all, the bond between Lucas and Anna grew stronger. She was no longer just a patient or a responsibility. She was his daughter, in every sense that mattered. The revelation of her true identity had brought them closer, giving Lucas a renewed sense of purpose and a chance at redemption. As they sat together one evening, watching the sunset from the balcony of their new home, Lucas felt a deep sense of peace. The journey had been long and fraught with danger, but they had emerged stronger, their scars a testament to their resilience and love. Anna looked up at him, her eyes filled with trust and love. "Thank you for saving me, Dr. Montero." Lucas smiled, his heart swelling with emotion. "You don't have to call me that anymore, Anna. Call me Dad." Tears filled Anna's eyes as she hugged him tightly. "Thank you, Dad." In that moment, Lucas knew that they had found something precious, something worth fighting for. Their journey wasn't over, but they were ready to face whatever came next, together. The foundation they had started grew, helping countless children find safety and hope. Lucas, Beatriz, and Ricardo became a formidable team, dedicated to protecting the innocent and ensuring that justice was served. As they reflected on their journey, they knew that the deepest scars were the ones that led them to their true strength. And in that strength, they found hope, love, and a future filled with promise. With Anna by his side, Lucas looked forward to the days ahead, ready to face any challenge and embrace the joy that came with being a father. The scars of destiny had brought them together, and nothing could tear them apart. Lucas sat in the hospital lab, his hands trembling slightly as he opened the envelope containing the DNA test results. He had been waiting anxiously for this moment, the confirmation he needed to understand the depth of his connection to Anna. The room was silent except for the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall, each second stretching into eternity. As he read the results, his breath caught in his throat. It was true. Anna was his biological daughter. The realization hit him like a tidal wave, overwhelming and profound. Memories of his past relationship with Maria flooded back, her laughter, their dreams, and the abrupt end that had left so many questions unanswered. Now, those questions had an answer, and it was a living, breathing little girl who had come into his life under the most tragic circumstances. Lucas felt a surge of emotions: joy, guilt, love, and a fierce protectiveness. He had a daughter. The thought was both exhilarating and daunting. He knew he had to tell Anna, but how? How could he explain the complexities of their past and the circumstances that had led them here? He decided to visit Anna immediately, carrying the weight of this new truth. As he walked to her hospital room, he rehearsed what he would say, though nothing seemed adequate for such a revelation. He found her sitting up in bed, her face lighting up with a smile when she saw him. "Hi, Dr. Montero," she said, her voice filled with warmth.
Ana Lucas replet, sitting beside her.
He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "I need to talk to you about something important." Anna's smile faded slightly, replaced by a look of curiosity and concern. "What is it?" Lucas reached out, taking her small hand in his. "Anna, do you remember when I told you that I would always be here for you, no matter what?" Anna nodded, her eyes wide and attentive. "There's something you need to know about your mother and about me," Lucas began, his voice gentle but steady. "Your mother, Maria, and we were very close a long time ago. We loved each other very much." Anna's eyes searched his face, trying to piece together the puzzle. Lucas continued, "I didn't know this until recently, but you are my daughter, Anna. Your mother never told me she was pregnant, and I only found out now. You and we're family." Tears welled up in Anna's eyes as she processed the information. "You're my dad," she whispered, her voice trembling. Lucas nodded, his own eyes glistening with tears. "Yes, Anna, I'm your dad." Anna threw her arms around him, holding on tightly as if afraid he might disappear. Lucas hugged her back, his heart swelling with love and determination. He would never let anything happen to her. She was his daughter, and he would protect her with everything he had. In the following days, Lucas began the process of legally becoming Anna's guardian. They appeared in family court, presenting their case to a compassionate judge who, moved by their story, granted Lucas guardianship. The legal acknowledgement of their bond was a significant step, but it was the emotional connection that truly mattered. Back at their apartment, Lucas and Anna began to adjust to their new life together. They spent time exploring the city, visiting parks, and enjoying simple moments of laughter and joy. Each day, their bond grew stronger, healing the wounds of their past traumas. One evening, Lucas and Anna decided to cook dinner together. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of fresh ingredients and the sound of their laughter as they chopped vegetables and stirred pots. It was a scene of domestic bliss that Lucas had never imagined for himself. But now, he couldn't picture his life any other way. As they sat down to eat, Anna looked at Lucas with a smile. "This is the best dinner ever, Dad." Lucas's heart melted at the word. "I'm glad you think so, sweetheart. It means the world to me to have you here." After dinner, Lucas received a call from Beatriz. She invited him over to her apartment, wanting to discuss their future plans now that the immediate danger had passed. Lucas agreed, feeling a sense of gratitude for Beatrice's unwavering support. At Beatrice's cozy apartment, they sat down with cups of tea, reflecting on everything they had been through. "We did it, Lucas," Beatrice said, her voice filled with pride. "We brought down the syndicate and kept Anna safe." Lucas nodded. "We did. And now, we have to think about what's next. Anna and I are adjusting to our new life, but I want to continue helping other children who are in danger." Beatrice smiled. "I've been thinking the same thing. There's so much more we can do. We should start a foundation to support children who have been affected by violence and abuse." "That's a great idea," Lucas agreed. "We can use our experience to make a real difference." Together, they began to outline their plans for the foundation, brainstorming ways to provide support, resources, and protection for vulnerable children. The work was challenging but rewarding, and it gave them a renewed sense of purpose. As the weeks turned into months, the foundation took shape. They secured funding, hired staff, and began outreach programs to connect with children in need. The foundation quickly became a beacon of hope, helping countless families find safety and support. The trial of the syndicate leaders was a significant milestone in their journey. Lucas, Beatrice, and Ricardo testified, presenting the evidence they had gathered. The courtroom was filled with tension, but also with a sense of justice being served. The syndicate members were convicted, their power dismantled, and their victims finally given a voice. After the trial, Lucas and Anna celebrated their new life together. They had come so far, and now they could look forward to a future filled with hope and possibility. Lucas felt a deep sense of fulfillment as he watched Anna thrive, her spirit shining brightly despite the darkness they had faced. One evening, Lucas, Beatrice, and Ricardo gathered at a community center for the official launch of their foundation. The event was a celebration of their journey and a commitment to their ongoing mission. Lucas took the stage, addressing the crowd with a heartfelt speech. "Thank you all for being here today," he began. "Our journey has been long and difficult, but it has also been filled with moments of incredible strength and resilience. This foundation is a testament to the power of community and the importance of protecting our most vulnerable. Together, we can make a difference." The crowd erupted in applause, and Lucas felt a surge of pride. He looked at Anna, who was sitting in the front row, her face beaming with pride. She was his inspiration, the reason he had fought so hard, and now they were ready to build a future together. As the event came to a close, Lucas reflected on how far they had come. The ordeal had tested them in ways they could never have imagined, but it had also brought them closer and revealed the true strength of their bond. Later that night, as they returned to their apartment, Lucas tucked Anna into bed. She looked up at him with sleepy eyes. "Dad, do you think Mom is proud of us?" Lucas felt a lump in his throat. "I know she is, Anna. She's watching over us, and she's so proud of how brave and strong you are." Anna smiled, closing her eyes as she drifted off to sleep. Lucas watched her for a moment, his heart filled with love and gratitude. The journey had been challenging, but it had also brought him the greatest gift of all, his daughter. With a final glance at Anna, Lucas walked to the balcony, looking out over the city. The lights of New York sparkled in the night, a symbol of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. He knew there would be more challenges, but he was ready to face them with Anna by his side. As he stood there, reflecting on their journey, he felt a deep sense of peace. The scars of their past had shaped them, but they had also led them to a place of healing and hope. And in that place, they had found their true strength. Lucas turned back to the apartment, ready to embrace the future with courage and love. The journey was far from over, but together, they would face whatever came next, their bond unbreakable and their hearts full of hope.